Welcome back to Uncanny X-Minutes. I'm your host, Stasha, and this is...
I'm producer James.
And we're here to talk about the next 10 minutes of the X-Men movie, the first X-Men movie, minutes 40 through 50. James, what happened?
What happens in this movie?
Yeah.
In these 10 minutes, Rogue steals Wolverine's power to stop from dying due to a Wolverine-related injury. Senator Kelly escapes imprisonment and makes his way to the X-Mansion. Mystique tricks Rogue into running away, leading Professor X to use Cerebro to locate her. Wolverine steals Cyclops' motorcycle to find Rogue.
Great. So let's talk about Rogue stealing powers. So what we're seeing here is Rogue stealing Wolverine's healing factor.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of stabbed her through and she like kind of absorbs him and gets it all sucked up and then like she heals herself. She doesn't die.
She saw it earlier in the movie.
Yes, because he heals when he gets hit by the bus.
Sabretooth.
It's not hit by the bus.
When he crashed his car and went through the windshield,
yeah,
he healed from that accident.
Right.
And then she saw that. So she was able to, she knew, it's funny, I don't think she knew it would work, but she was kind of hoping it would work.
Yeah. And it did. So
it did work.
Rogue stealing powers. So stealing is kind of a particular word because there's a lot of times where Rogue takes powers from her teammates in fights. It's part
borrows.
Yes. It's kind of like her thing, right? Where like it's part of like the X-Men have a lot of teamwork when they do battles, and like Rogue being able to touch somebody, get some powers to do some stuff occasionally will happen.
Yeah.
But her stealing powers is another fact entirely. I think
this one is it's with consent or not.
Yeah. Fun fact, Rogue can not only steal mutant powers, she can steal non-mutant powers.
Oh, like from superheroes.
Yes.
Other
do you want to know
superheroes.
some really interesting superheroes that she's stolen?
I mean, I'm not
powers
surprised by this fact, but like I don't delve too hard into outside the X-Men.
So she's taken powers from Juggernaut.
Okay. That's some magic stuff too.
Magic. She was able to take that.
Okay.
She's taken powers from the Thing.
I guess some people might not know that. Juggernaut. We will get into it in more detail, but Juggernaut is not a mutant. He is a magical creature.
Yes. Yes.
They come from a magical artifact. That's what I'd say.
Exactly. Yeah. She steals his powers.
Okay.
She steals it from the Thing.
The Thing from the Fantastic Four.
And she turns into the Thing.
Awesome. Just rock
a female
body.
version of Thing. It's very interesting. And she's also, my personal favorite, has taken the power from Johnny Blaze, also known as Ghost Rider.
Amazing. The spirit of vengeance?
The spirit of vengeance. It is so interesting, that one in particular, because it is one of the few times...
It's kind of like a curse.
Yes, and it's one of the few times that Rogue can't handle the power.
Oh, I would imagine not.
So she is like begging Johnny to take it back because, and she doesn't, I mean, it's part of
did
like...
it sort of like transfer in that instance?
Yes.
Like the curse transferred to her instead of her just temporarily borrowing it.
Yes, and Johnny Blaze is standing there without being part of the spirit of vengeance.
Just a dude.
Yeah. And he's tempted to not take it back. It's very interesting.
Oh, that's good.
This is an Uncanny Avengers Annual #1. So I read it because I was interested because I don't read a lot of Avengers stuff, but this was really, it was kind of a weird setup because it's a Mojo story.
Really? In Avengers?
Yes.
I do think it's funny when a predominantly X-Men character deals with...
Well, it's Uncanny Avengers, so there's a lot.
I guess that's true. So it is both.
In it. Yeah. So that's why I think there's a lot of echoes of Claremont in the Uncanny Avengers. It reminds you of a lot of like they're clearly authors who like Claremont, read that stuff growing up, and like want to emulate or pay homage to it. So it's a very weird Mojo thing, but that's irrelevant. The point is, I found that really compelling because that kind of covers such a wide range of the kinds of powers that you can run into. Wonder Man powers she takes too. Like,
what's Wonder Man's deal? Is he's just
basically like the template from which Vision was made in the comics. Vision,
but how does Wonder Man get his powers?
I don't know that.
Okay.
That's a little too far out of my expertise.
I was wondering if that was Alien or something.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know about that one. But I mean, Captain Marvel is alien, and she was able to take Captain Marvel's powers from the beginning.
Yeah.
So she's really covered quite a bit with her stealing abilities are really top tier, Omega level, someone could say.
Well, they'd probably be Omega level if, because later she can control it more.
Depending
on your storytelling.
Yeah, depending on the storytelling. Because I know there's a later one where you get Sunfire. She takes his powers and they both almost die. So,
okay.
Yeah. So like there's sometimes the stories like the powers are like really overwhelming. For the most part, she can handle them.
Right. I think that would limit her to being an Omega level mutant.
I think so
is
too.
The ability to control other people's powers as well.
Yeah, she's not very good at some of the other powers that are outside of her expertise. So going back to X-Men, Psylocke is another character who she's like taken powers from to defeat a bad guy. But it's more of like a team borrow.
Yeah.
But she
with
wasn't,
consent.
Yeah, or like, trying to save their lives, basically.
Yeah.
And she's just not very good at using psychic powers, really.
Yeah.
Like, and so she'll use them, but she's not good
that's
at
a different muscle you need to flex.
I think so too. And I also think it's kind of interesting, right? Because like Captain Marvel her powers are very punchy. And Rogue's a very punchy person. So like those powers really like sat well with her. But like, I think some of these other powers are not 100%.
I feel like it's easier to become a punchy person.
Yeah.
Like we all do things physically. So if your physicality gets increased 20-fold, you know what to do with that.
Exactly.
Flying you can get used to.
Yeah.
But like using your brain in a way you've never used it before.
Yeah.
It's like trying to swim without knowing that swimming exists.
Right. And also, I find it really interesting. So, we know Rogue is able to take parts of personality, but sometimes she also takes the way they look as part of their power. So the Thing, for example, turns to female Thing. But the other thing she's done, which I think is very weird, and I can't remember which issue it is, but she takes powers from Nightcrawler. And Nightcrawler, from what I remember, Nightcrawler doesn't think that it's gonna, he thinks he's just gonna pass out when he gives Rogue. I think Rogue's unconscious, and he like tries to give her resuscitation, mouth to mouth. And when that happens, she absorbs his powers. She starts looking like Nightcrawler, and he just looks like a regular dude. So she gets the blue, the whole, like her body changes.
We'll get into it more with Nightcrawler, but he was that way from baby.
Yes.
He was born that way, which is a rare thing, but does happen with mutants
sometimes. Isn't that weird?
That is weird. So that means that's part of his mutation.
Theoretically, yeah. The looks are part of his mutation.
Because if it were just part of him, he wouldn't have lost it.
I haven't read X-Men Blue, which I feel like would answer a lot of these questions.
We can talk about that off mic.
Okay, great. Because I feel like there's
Because I also haven't read it,
here.
but I've read things.
So part of the reason that this is an issue is because depending on which comic book that you're reading and depending on what X-Men Blue says, which I haven't read yet, at some part of continuity, Mystique is Nightcrawler's mom.
Yeah.
His like birth mother.
Yes.
And Mystique is also Rogue's adopted mother. So like there's like a thing that they're talking about, like, that's why there's a relationship between Nightcrawler and Rogue. But this is like, I don't know. I always thought Nightcrawler was blue because of Mystique, but now it seems like it's not if that happened.
Well, yeah, but if Mystique loses her powers, she looks like a person.
Does she? I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Well, at least in the movies, she is.
Okay. I'm not sure about the comic books about that, to be quite
I don't know if she's lost her power in the comic books, but in the X-Men 3, she looks like Rebecca Romaine Stamos. I don't know if she was Stamos at the time, but
I'm not sure if I'm going to count that as canon. I'm going to have to look that up.
I'm just, I'm going off of what I know, and what I know is movies.
Anyway, so that's, these movies are so much about Rogue, and I love it because I love Rogue. I think she's so interesting.
The first movie is so about Rogue.
It's so great. There's so much depth to that character. We could talk about her forever, but we have to move on to the next.
Well, when she runs away,
yes,
Professor X uses Cerebro. So we see Cerebro for the first time, and it in the movie is a big old room, big circular sphere-ish room. With just like the headset in the middle that he has to put on, and it amplifies his psychic abilities, and he's able to find not just mutants. Because they do show a bunch of humans, but he is specifically trying to find her. Yeah. So it was designed in the comic books as a way to find mutants. I believe in the first appearance, it was like built into his desk. It was just like a computer essentially.
Okay.
But it wasn't called Cerebro. It was like Ceredron or something like that. It was like a dumb name. They didn't.
Okay. They were like, this is bad. We got to change this.
And so it became bigger and bigger until it was kind of what you see in the movies, where it is a helmet in its own room in the X Mansion. But then it's also been pared down and been sort of portable, but I think in a remote link situation where like the original Cerebro has to be there
and on, like that's it's like Wi-Fi connection, like Bluetooth.
There you go. It's been used by multiple characters that are also telepathic.
Yes.
So Professor X, Jean Grey, Emma Frost, the Stepford Cuckoos, they've all used it.
That makes sense. The Stepford Cuckoos, just people who don't know, are clones of Emma Frost, but they're kids.
Right. But there are some instances of other people using it. So these are all, we don't have to go into who all these people are, but Rachel Summers, Kitty Pryde, Danny Moonstar, Psylocke, and I don't know who Ruth Aldean is, but she's on the list.
Oh, I'm going to, hold on.
Wait, is Ruth
that sounds so familiar to me.
Shoot, is that Blindfold?
Yes.
That's who it is.
Yes.
I just don't know her as Ruth.
Yeah.
I know her as Ruth. I just didn't know her last name. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, Blindfold has used it as well. Those are all just like separate characters that most of them, actually, a lot of them do show up in movies. Rachel Summers doesn't.
No.
Which she is alternate version, an alternate universe daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey.
Rachel Summers.
Yep. Is that Age of Apocalypse?
No,
it's Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past.
There it is.
Yeah.
Kitty Pryde will show. Well, she shows up kind of in the next two movies, and then really shows up in the third movie. Danny Moonstar is in New Mutants.
Yes.
So we'll show up. She'll show up later. Psylocke shows up in Apocalypse, and kind of in X-Men 3. We'll talk about it later. Blindfold's the only one who hasn't shown up, but she is another one of those psychic but can't see, kind of like Destiny, but not quite.
Yeah.
Characters.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I all those characters are psychic characters, obviously, and like it makes sense. I was really impressed by the movie's display because I feel like that's how I thought Cerebro works in my head. It's like he's connecting to the minds of everybody, like all the mutants around the world, and like it's a really hard thing to do, and it's cool, and like I think they did a great job with it, actually, personally.
Because it wasn't like boom, it wasn't like a radar blip that all of a sudden like she's there.
Yeah,
like it was a fog of everyone showing up, and because that does look like a comic book panel.
Yeah,
where you could just do gray with the fog and the person and yada yada yada
outlines,
and then she shows up in color, and then her environment shows up around her once he's pinpointed her.
Right.
And then she gets that nice iconic green that Rogue has.
It's so good. Anyway,
we didn't talk about her coat before, but on the costume design for that coat, that looks like a Rogue coat.
It's a good, that's like one of the few color in the costumes. That's why it's so good.
And that's probably it too, because everyone wears so much black at this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of black.
The only one that should is, Storm.
Really, the only person
black
who should
or
be wearing
white.
Black. Yeah. I wish they had made Storm. Would you think that if they had given Storm a white leather outfit, it would have been cool? Like she would have been unique. It would have
been pretty cool, but you would have had
out.
to do a little bit more than just her being in white. Like you'd have to give everyone a little bit more iconic looking, little more variation.
Yeah,
I think. But there was doing the deep dive was interesting because after the X Mansion had been destroyed one of the times, they rebuilt it with Shi'ar parts, which are a space species in the comic books that I don't think have shown up in the movies ever.
No, they're bird jerks.
But they have been often referred to as bird jerks.
Yes, I will say. Shout out.
They are feathered alien folks that are so intertwined into the X-Men that when you start reading, you're like, what are Shi'ar? They're just aliens.
They're aliens, yeah.
That's it.
And Professor X was like hooking up with their queen for a while.
Well, I mean, he has a daughter.
Yeah.
With her.
Yeah.
Watch out. But I think it also has gained sentience at one point, Cerebro.
Yeah.
And it created a body out of nanotechnology, which then also created X-Men out of nanotechnology.
Oh. Who?
Well, no, it created its own X-Men.
Oh, just
based on
the existing X-Men.
But like combinations of them. It's weird.
Yeah, I did not read that. That's really cool. Interesting.
You have to deep dive into that one sometime.
Yeah, one day.
And then in the Krakoan era, we have to keep coming back to it because it's so good.
It's so pivotal. It changes so much.
It does. Cerebro has been turned into cradles, they call it, and it houses the souls of all mutants.
Yeah,
they're like they're like backup drives.
Yeah, they're like the last saved state.
when they take, when you camp out at a fire,
Yeah.
you do a save state right there.
Right there.
And Professor X goes, I got you.
Yeah.
You're saved.
But if you
Thumbs
kind
up.
of, if you go a long time without hitting the bonfires, then you're screwed. And then you get uploaded and then you don't have relationships that you were in for a long time. You don't remember them.
Yikes. I think we haven't mentioned it in this podcast that in the current Krakoa and X-Men, they have a resurrection process that goes on. So when you die, you get resurrected with these as your backups. Like they pull your soul out of these cradles and put you into a new body.
Yeah.
That's why we're saying
it's crazy.
It's crazy. But you would think it's boring, but it's not.
It's not. It's like one of the most compelling and interesting parts about it. Cause it's just so perfect for the X-Men. It was such a good idea. Cause it's like, wow, it's like, how do you make amnesia interesting? And this is how you make amnesia interesting. Legitimately, honestly. Like that's part of it. Like it's like people lose memories all the time. They lose time. They lose like their relationships. And then other people who didn't die have to process that and deal with the fact that they don't remember, they won't ever remember.
And it's not just one person this happens to. This happens a few times.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, so Rogue runs away.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about why she runs away.
That's true. We didn't talk about why she ran away.
It's Mystique's fault. It's always Mystique's fault.
Oh, man.
Mystique pretends to be Iceman, Bobby Drake, and is telling Rogue that like Professor is mad at her and she's gonna put
does
in jail.
her best teenager everybody's mad at you.
Yeah, everybody hates you.
Everybody hates you. I don't know if you know it. Everybody. It's like she came to bully him in person.
It's really impressive.
What a jerk move to steal someone's powers.
I know.
Gross.
I know. It was like everybody's freaked because you're such a freak. It's like this is a school of mutants.
It's not even like when you know it, hindsight, you're like, yeah, that's not even Bobby, man. He's not that petty.
No.
But you haven't been with him that long to know that that's the case.
It's so interesting. We weren't going to talk about this, but I kind of want to now.
Okay.
How do you feel about Bobby Drake? He's so weird.
He's
not like this.
He's not as fun.
Not even to mention that he shouldn't be straight, but like he was not gay until much later. I was going to say
he wasn't out in the comic books at this point, so I can give you. You can
hand wave that
because we can talk about this right now. That the fact that Bobby and Rogue have a relationship, which has never been something in comics because they just don't. No, they just don't.
He's a Bobby.
He's a goofball.
He's supposed to be goofy.
In the original, in like the Silver Age comics, he's the one making snowmen because he has ice powers and he makes ice puns. Like
and he slides around.
Yeah, he's a goofy goofball. He's a party dude.
Yeah,
and he's not in this.
He's not. He almost kind of seems like a young Cyclops. Like he gets a young Cyclops vibe.
Yeah,
and it's like they wanted two Cyclopses. I was like, stop.
I mean, he's sweet. I'll give him that. He is sweet. And I think there are certain scenes where he's consoling, and that could be Bobby, but that's not his
core.
No, that's not his core personality.
I don't think so. I almost wish it had been Cannonball instead.
Ooh.
Because this is a very so Cannonball Sam Guthrie is a New Mutant, and he's like
he's in the New Mutants when we get to that movie.
Good old sweet boy.
He's a sweet old farm boy
from down south, and he's adorable, or Midwest, down south, one or the other. I can't remember.
He's from Kentucky. He's not a farm boy. He works in the mines.
He works in the mines. That's his dad. Yeah, he's so sweet, and he's got like a huge family, and he's adorable. That is kind of the vibe that this Iceman is giving off.
Like, yes, I agree.
Yeah,
that is a good call. They wouldn't.
Because nobody knows who that is.
Because nobody knows who Cannonball is.
Yes, I do.
He wasn't in the cartoons, though. And they are definitely trying to pull, at least in this first movie, as many characters that people might recognize as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Especially like the main, I don't know, not main, but like the kids.
Well, the ones you start with at least.
Right, yeah.
Like kids. It's easier to add characters later for plot reasons that you can then build into.
Right. But yeah. Anyway, we weren't supposed to even be talking about Bobby Drake.
That wasn't even on the list.
No, it wasn't. But I had to because I just like I couldn't let it go because I was just thinking of that. I was like, Mystique is acting really weird and it's so out of character. But then it's also the character itself in these movies for Bobby Drake is out of character too.
Yeah.
I just kind of miss that. I wish they had either made him Sam Guthrie or they just made him actually more goofy.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this movie is missing some levity.
early 2000s.
I guess.
It's what it was.
Don't joke.
You can, but it's not in like a group activity. You got to give the jokes to Wolverine, apparently.
Or Storm when they talk about the frying the frog meme. Like, wouldn't it be, if Bobby Drake was making that joke, it'd be funnier because that would be part of the bit.
It would be, because he also could be like, I'll have to workshop that.
Yeah,
something.
You could have made it funny. Anyway, but yeah.
Back to Mystique.
So Mystique manipulating Rogue, though, long history of this.
That is on point.
Yeah. I mean, it's from the beginning. One of the first appearances of Rogue, which we talked about last couple times we talked about Rogue, where she runs into her neighbor and she has her first kiss or whatever. One of the panels before that is Destiny and Mystique talking, and Destiny trying to advise Mystique to stop being so like overbearing and meddling because Rogue is different from them. And then when she finds out about the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, she's not going to take it super well. So even from the beginning, where Rogue is super young and she's still like playing with like the neighborhood boys, Mystique is still trying to control her and like manipulate things to suit herself. It's always counterbalanced in the comics with Mystique's concept of motherhood, though, which is not really done here in the movies.
No,
that's not that connection is not really made. And I don't know if it ever is. I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I don't think they go down that storyline.
Well, here's the problem with Mystique's character in the movies is that she is a henchman.
Yeah, very much so.
Which she very much is not in the comic book. She feels like she will work with people, but at the end of the day, her own self-interests are the most important.
Yeah.
She is a powerful, driven woman who don't need no man.
It's true.
So the fact that she's Magneto's like lackey isn't very true.
Yeah, she does work for the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and like there are points, but that is relatively brief in the longevity of such a character. The character is very about them. Like Mystique is out for herself most of the time, but she does have a lot of ties like with motherhood and like that concept and dealing with that, and also like struggling with her own selfishness and interest. When it regards her and her kids, like when it comes to her and Rogue, and when it comes to her and Nightcrawler, there's some really intense, dramatic, fraught tensions.
Are you going to forget her third child?
Yes. You mean the guy? Oh my God! So
her and Sabretooth had a child named Graydon Creed.
Who's
a human, if I recall.
Kill all the mutants.
Yeah.
He's
so
like one of those guys.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
Why did they do that? Oh, maybe that is in this movie because she's on the team with Sabretooth.
She is.
Does she say 2 words to him?
No.
I don't think so.
No, I think that's also kind of the other issue is like there's not a lot of like drama or like camaraderie between the bad guys either. Like it all kind of revolves around Magneto only, and like the Magneto's relationship isn't even with his lackeys. It's with Professor X.
Yeah, no, he just tells them what to do. They're okay with it, and so you're gonna follow what he's saying. So you're like, oh, he's trying to help us as a species,
right?
But in this movie, none of them. I don't like they may poke at each other a little bit. That's it.
Yeah, and.
That's missing. That's a bummer.
It's a big core that's missing, and I don't think that the characters they picked are particularly useful for that either. Yeah. I mean, Mystique, Toad, and Sabretooth. No, of course we're not talking to each other.
They have nothing. Well, Mystique and Sabretooth have
have
had stuff together, but like that's it.
Yeah, it's not really like
but not
super
like
compelling.
That. No,
I've never found.
Well,
that to
none
be
of them
compelling.
have a drive at all in this movie.
The drive is to help Magneto and defend, I guess, mutants for Mystique. If you like,
but none of them have any personal information. You know nothing about any one of them this movie,
except for maybe like Sabretooth when his scene with Wolverine that they have some history and they don't like each other. That's like about it. Like
maybe
no time, I guess,
we
for
don't
character
have time.
development.
But even the X-Men, you don't know a ton about most of them either.
That's true. I mean,
you get to know Rogue, Wolverine, and then the relationship between Professor X and Magneto.
Yeah, I think that's also the thing that I wish that they had more time to spend on in the movies, is because like they're always spending so much time dealing with the plot and what's going on with them right now and their relationships as they are at this moment, and not so much time looking back on like what got them to this point.
Right.
When the X-Men comic books are all about how did I end up here?
You know, this feels like a big event comic.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is what happens in a big event comic, is that all the stuff comes to a head, but the reason the event comics are good, in the X-Men comics specifically, is all the drama that's been building up to the big event comic. So when something breaks in the event, it has stakes.
Right, because you already know how everybody's feeling about everybody else at this moment, and like why they would make this. Like if you were reading an event comic, if this was an event comic for comic books, you would know why Mystique made those choices. It might have been in like her own side issue that you had to read, but it would have been available for you.
But it's there.
But yeah, right. I don't even think we really get into the plan yet. We're still kind of unraveling that because they don't really know.
All we've gotten to in this point, and it was in the last 10 minutes, is Senator Kelly's been turned into a mutant.
Right.
That's all we know.
Right. I kind of scoured the comics for that, and I didn't find a lot there.
Like a plan of turning people into mutants just to make everyone on the same playing field.
Yeah.
It's not a bad plan if it worked.
It's not. The closest is the one that you mentioned when we were off mic, which is not really, they're not turned into mutants, but it is when Cable and Deadpool made everybody blue.
Yeah, well, they didn't do it, but in the book,
but yeah,
Cable and Deadpool, there was a plan to turn everyone on Earth, to give them a blue skin.
Yeah.
So that there would be no racism.
Right.
But there is a panel in the book that's like, yeah, you still can tell.
Right.
Like there are other features on a person besides just their skin color. You can still tell who's who.
Right.
That doesn't help. The only other thing I've found was the mutant growth hormone, which was like a synthesized X gene, which gives people temporary mutant powers, but doesn't give them full mutant powers. And I read a somewhat current run where there was a Sentinel going after someone who used that at some point in their life and was reading as a mutant. To this, like, it wasn't a real good Sentinel, but
interesting.
It was like a beta Sentinel.
Okay.
Full force turning humans into mutants. I couldn't find anything either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a story out there because there's just so many stories, but like nothing major, none of the big ones that
somebody
would stand
has
out.
It. Please send it to me because I will read it.
Yeah, same. I'm kind of curious on how that would go down. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be Magneto running it though.
No, that feels like maybe a Sinister thing.
It does feel like a Sinister thing.
I don't know.
Good point. All right. Well, I think we're coming to a close here.
Great.
Another 30 minutes come and gone.
If you have any questions or if you have suggestions for us to read or correct us, please send them to uncannyxminutes@gmail.com or any of the social medias we're on.
Well, I'm your host, Taj.
I'm producer James.
See you in the next 10 minutes.